Well, our first guest on today's Big Blend Radio Show is author Joan Cohen, and she's joining us to talk about her new novel. It's called Land of Last Chances, Land of Last Chances, and it shines light on the silent but sizable struggles faced by a real-life career woman. Very important read. And, the challenges become even more complicated when a woman facing a possible at-risk pregnancy learns about the pervasive, incurable disease that could change the trajectory of her life. It deals with Alzheimer's, pregnancy, being a career woman, and all those emotions that just come up through that. But you know what? You're a successful career woman too. So how do you balance this all? Of course, you can get it on Amazon, all those great online stores and bookstores. But I encourage you to go to her website, joancohenauthor.com. She's also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and connect with her directly there. So Joan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm just fine.
Good.
I appreciate the invitation.
Good. Well, we're excited about this. We were just saying at the top of the show that, it's not very often that you get to read a book about a career woman. And if it is, like Nancy said, she said, hey, it's normally a woman put in a mystery part, or it's like there's a bigger story, but the career part isn't so big at all of who she
is.
Yeah.
If there's a picture of a man on the cover and he's not wearing a shirt, it's probably a romance, even though its business is in there.
Mhm. Exactly. But you're dealing with some serious. Go ahead, Nancy.
I was going to say some book covers we call them bodice rippers.
Yes.
Because the man is sort of dressed, the woman is barely dressed.
Right.
And there's
business in there somewhere, but page 150.
Yes. There's a mercantile in there,
Yes.
But what's interesting, to me, is you're dealing with Alzheimer's, pregnancy. You're dealing with the work situation in a woman, and one thing I wanted to touch on is number one, why you chose to create that kind of setting, the workplace part, and a woman and a career woman, but I wonder if my thing is, do you think authors kind of steer away from it because it's kind of like we're not supposed to have issues if we're a woman right now? It's like, oh, you can't be president because you're going to, have a hormonal outbreak. So I wonder if that's why it's been shied away from. Yeah, emotional, hormonal.
It's very strange because it's women who buy most of the books, if you look at the statistics. So, and there are tons of books, nonfiction books out there for women. There's so many self-help books about how to act in a corporate setting and politics and how to get ahead and the whole range of things, from people who I think know what they're talking about to people who are just looking to put a book out there. But fiction, in some ways, fiction gets to us in a way that nonfiction doesn't. It's a story. We're drawn in, and if it's good, we feel for those characters. I once had a writing teacher tell me it's not difficult to get people to believe that your character cares about what's happening to her. What's difficult is getting the reader to care. And maybe that's so daunting that people shy away from fiction. But I would have liked to have read more, and I haven't been able to find much that deals with women's work environments. There were three that I found, one a long time ago and two more recently, but the pickings are slim. I read Moral Hazard by Kate Jennings, who's a UK writer. I read it years ago, and what I liked was that she was wrestling with moral issues both in the workplace and at home, very serious ones. And I find that fascinating. None of us have answers to some of these very tough moral issues, but it's comforting somehow to see somebody else reasoning it through and trying to behave the right way.
You're not alone at that. Then you're not alone. It's like talking to a best friend. You know what I mean? In a way,
Right.
and not somebody telling you what to do. And I think that women are tired of it, and we do it to each other as women. A friend comes over for help, and the first thing you want to do is solve the problem, but it's really not
Yes.
that, you know.
It's true. I mean, there are a lot of myths and articles about women who achieve the perfect balance, and I just don't buy it. I mean, I realize I'm retired at the moment, and I know things have changed somewhat, but some things never change. And if you have money and an enormously helpful and enlightened spouse, preferably younger because they're the ones who are, uh, you can sort of make a go of it, but it's like a movie running, streaming in the back of your head. What's going on? Is my child at the museum with a nanny, or are they sitting in front of TV reruns while she files her nails? I mean, these things just pop into your head in the middle of a work conversation because it's just hard to free yourself. So again, I say it's a myth that we can have the perfect balance. Something suffers.
Well, I think it's hard because I just always go back to nature where the man's duty was to protect and defend. And to protect and defend, you have to be extremely focused. You can't be in the middle of a battle and be thinking about something else. If you do,
Yes.
chances are you're going to get hurt or, bad things will happen to you. Whereas with a woman, especially a woman that has children, you're always divided in your focus. There's no way you can focus on just one thing because you have a child over here. Maybe your child's in school, but the phone can ring and the child's sick. Now, drop everything, go pick up the child. There's that, and
Yes.
there's a whole bunch of things that we have to multitask, and men historically did not have to. I'm not saying they don't have to now because things have really changed. And so as people have to embrace the idea of multitasking, something's got to give. You cannot say you're giving 100% in all spheres of your life all at the same time. So when you're doing 100% over here, you're giving up something on the other side.
That's right. The superwoman is just a myth. And as younger men pick up more of the burden, in my observation, when they're the ones who run out of the office because the child is suddenly sick, or they're the ones that have to leave to get a child out of daycare at the end of the day, they're hurt by that just the way it used to be only women. And now it's many men also. It's almost looked at as a sign of weakness. I don't understand it. I think we all need to move to Scandinavia or something. It's but managers are intolerant of, and often it's managers who have kids themselves. Yet I don't really know why the workplace is so screwed up. But the point is, one of the points I wanted to make in the book was that you can't keep these two parts of your life compartmentalized. I mean, they run into each other inevitably.
They do. Absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
Everything does. I think everything does. We are ambassadors for a character development program for kids, which we also use in some of our tourism seminars for adults, because it's true. And then it's the 8 keys of excellence, and it starts with integrity and goes through things like speak with good purpose, learning what commitment means, and how failure leads to success. And the very final key of excellence is balance. And balance isn't like yoga is over here for 30 minutes and then go home and eat a chocolate cake. The yoga, the balance is about living your best life, and when everything is in sync together, that's why we're the blend. This whole thing of compartmentalizing everything, it doesn't work. Everything's connected. And until you get
Right.
into that, you can't really navigate properly. You're going to drive yourself nuts. But let's talk about Land of Last Chances. Your character, Jean Bridgeton, tell us about her, because I mean, she one day she's like, she thought it was menopause, and oh my gosh, I'd be like, yay, it's menopause, and then you find out not, and it's like one of my worst nightmares came to be in existence. Like, really, I'm with her on that.
Well, this is a person who plans absolutely everything. She's
Mhm.
obsessed with planning and schedules and spreadsheets, and it's worked very well for her. She was schooled from an early age to really kind of leave marriage by the wayside because it was going to interfere with the great achievements she was headed for. Her mother was, if it were Los Angeles, I would say she had a stage mother.
Mm.
So, the pregnancy just, I mean, first of all, the fact that she didn't count that she didn't go 12 months without having a period. She kind of lost count in there somewhere. It was just something that would be so totally out of character for her, and yet it happened. So she feels awful about that to start with. How could she make a mistake like that? But as you noted, a little time elapses, and she's more and more taken with the idea of actually perhaps having a child. She goes back and forth. She's ambivalent, and then gets hit with the family secret, which has been hidden from her, that there may be a rare gene, inherited gene for Alzheimer's in her family, more specifically her father. And I want to emphasize that this is a rare gene because most Alzheimer's is late onset, and the reasons are complex. But if you are somebody who is wedded to data and makes all decisions based on data, and somebody says, no, we can't really get you the answer in time for the abortion deadline, and we're not sure we can get you the answer anyway because there are a lot of things science hasn't figured out yet. You can imagine how this would be an anathema to somebody who has kept a very separate lane. She really doesn't have much of a personal life. It's very, very few friends because it's hard to keep friendships going, except in friends from the workplace, which sometimes if you leave a company, you realize they weren't really friends. Now she just finds herself with her personal life and her professional life colliding with each other. And I don't want to give away too much of what happens in the book, but she is forced to reconsider everything she's been taught, everything she's thought, right down to whether there is such a thing as an objective cost-benefit analysis. If you can imagine somebody trying to do a cost-benefit analysis on having a baby, it's I mean, she begins to realize that even in business decisions, there's always an emotional component, something she never considered before. So it's a book of learning and epiphanies for Jean, and hopefully for the reader.
Do you think that women are more emotional than men, or men just hide emotion better?
I think that historically women have been a little more risk averse. I'm not sure about emotional because I know some pretty emotional men, which of course is always called something different when it's a guy exhibiting his emotions versus a woman. But we don't have to go into that because everybody knows those cliches. But I hate to generalize because again, I think young people are somewhat different. But in my experience over my lifetime, women may do a good job of hiding it, but they are more afraid to take chances. If there's a promotion coming their way and they really think maybe they'll be over their head, well, they don't want to turn it down, but they go into it nervous and probably do fine. Whereas I think it's more typical of guys to perhaps push those fears away and just say, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah,
whether it's true or not.
It's a warrior versus the mother nurturer, and women stay up all night over things. I mean, we drive ourselves berserk, until we get the answer.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a really good
point. We really do. We chew on things, and I think it's because of the nurturing motherhood part of us. Not saying that dads and men aren't nurturing either. So there's no stereotypes or whatever blanket statements really here. It's meant that that's really how nature built us. I think moms are very much like that planner, so that there's a multitasker, the planner. The multitasking is really we do it, but it's really not the best thing, but you have to. Not always going to work, like you talked about in the beginning. But I think because mothers need to make sure it's about protection, even though like the male is very much hey, we're the protectors, the warriors. I'm just talking I am generalizing, but I don't mean it.
Yes.
But there's
you're stipulating that this is a generalization.
Yeah, just kind of here's
right
the
up
basic
front.
idea, the rough outline, But and listen, we can't be politically correct all the time either. So there it is. Don't email me.
Exactly. No, you're so right.
But women
plus
will do that.
We're talking historically here. We're not talking about the top 5 women in the top law office in the top city, in the country.
Everybody's a little different, but women, as a mother, you're going to want to make sure, like, no, we can't, live in a cave. We want a house that we can raise the kids up and that there's a decent school nearby. Things have to make sense for the child. And I think that's how our actual makeup, our biological makeup is, and whether or not we have children. I'm not a parent. I don't want to be one. If that happened, I'd be running from the hills, screaming at the top of my lungs, going, "Oh my God!" And then I know I'll turn around and go, "Okay, well now I'm going to do this," and I'll be like, "That's my life," But it's there's that no matter what, even as a non-parent, I'm very much that way. I'm very much like Jean. I'm like her. I'm going to plan. I'm a Virgo, man. Everything has to be planned, even though I make mistakes.
I understand. I'm married to a Virgo.
Oh,
so
does that help you with her character?
Well, I have a daughter who is like her Virgo father. So, yeah, in some ways.
Nancy, don't say a word.
I'm just laughing. I think just to say, when women are in the position where for eons they have multitasked, okay, and which means your focus is split. However, when you really think it through, that means they are more intelligent on a lot of different subjects because they have been forced to multitask.
Yes.
So they have more awareness and more they're just more awareness on a lot of different levels. Not maybe the perfect response in every scenario, but at least they're there.
Right. They have to keep a lot of balls in the air.
Exactly. We juggle. Okay? And so can you do your best job all the time? No. But because, especially if you have more than one child and they're all running around, I mean, really?
That's
by the way, you're
why
having
God
fun.
Invented pharmaceuticals.
You see? There are, that's it. That's the other part. That women are doing a lot. Women are drinking more and taking a lot of things that they should.
But I think we're also more curious too, because we're faced with so many more issues. Sometimes, so many people are going to get so mad. Whatever.
Well, I think also when there is enough money for one spouse to stay home for some period of time in the very early years, and often it is the woman who elects to do that, not always, but often, then when she returns to work, there is sometimes an income disparity. And I think most couples would hate to think that they settle issues based on who's earning more money. But there are inevitably times when the child wakes up with a fever and one parent has a meeting with a bunch of peers and the other parent has a meeting with the board of directors. It's the mother who has the meeting with the peers who is staying home. It's an unfortunate byproduct of losing a few years out of your career. And of course, people catch up and surpass. I mean, I know a couple of people where the men stay home. Not that they weren't very good at what they did and didn't make perfectly good money, but the wives were such stars and such financial successes that it didn't make sense to do it any other way. I don't think that would have ever happened in a previous generation.
Right.
No.
It has changed now. And we've also got to look at, same-sex marriages and, women going and adopting on their own and still juggling a career. So there's a lot of circumstances that have changed, and I think it's good, but no matter what, parenthood is like huge. It's monumental. Having a career is really huge. Like I know for myself, I eat, drink, sleep, everything is what we do. It's everything. It consumes me, and I made that choice, and I'm glad of it, and that's that, So it feels good when you make those choices, but I think, you're always dwelling on every choice as they come in. As a woman, we're always in that zone. For you, writing this book is really interesting because you do have a background in being a career woman, a businesswoman in sales and all of that good stuff. Now, did you balance, did you take your life and use this in the book as a mother, as a career woman?
No, actually. I mean, in my own life, I wanted to be a writer as a kid, and when I went to college and I was put in a very high-level freshman writing class, English class, because in those days you had to take freshman English and there were levels. I wrote a paper. I got a good grade on my paper, but there was a boy in my class. I mean, there were very bright people in that class. The professor made a point of saying how terrific his paper was. So I asked him if I could read his paper after class. Now, as I said, I got a good grade on mine. When I read his, it was a piece of literary criticism. It read like something out of the New York Review of Books. I was just floored. And I said to myself, in the infinite wisdom of a 17-year-old, I'm a skillful writer, but that's talent. I don't have that. And fast forward to an entire career working for technology companies. So, I mean, I've been in the lucky position of, after retirement, of being able to go back and say, that's ridiculous. If you want to write, you better write now because the runway's not infinite. So, I mean, it's actually, for all the women who want to do other things but either can't, they either have to make it an avocation because the thing they want to do won't earn enough money to help pay the mortgage, or they just have a lifelong desire they don't feel they can do right now. It's good to know that there may be another stage in life when those things may be possible.
Yeah.
Everything, the world doesn't begin and end with the first few decades of whatever your career is.
That's a good point. And for you went back to to school. You retired and went back and earned a
Yes.
degree for writing.
Yes. Well, as I said to my husband, well, I have a master's in business administration, which is a good master's for earning money, and now I'd like to go back and earn a master's for something that I am sure will probably not net me anything. But I did it, yes.
It's your soul. It's part of who you are in your soul. And I think that's important, too, for women, is to realize you can also, you set that time to do what you want to do for you. And I think that's very difficult, especially as mothers and parents, to set that time for you, for what's in your soul to do. I think it's a hard thing.
Yes. I personally could never do this, but I remember reading that John Grisham used to get up when he was still a practicing lawyer. Used to get up at 4 a.m, which for me can only happen in another lifetime. And he would write until he had to leave for work. And then, of course, he became so spectacularly successful that he left the law and just concentrated on his writing. But I have great admiration for people who can put things together that way. I am not like that. So for me, it had to be something different for each stage of life.
Yeah, everyone's different. And I think that's the thing, is find out who you are. When you know who you are, you can make those things come together. What is it on the Alzheimer's side, bringing that in? We've done some shows, actually a series. Remember Jim Greenwood being on our shows, Nancy, since passed. Being on our show, he wrote a number of books on Alzheimer's and dementia, saying, talking about dementia, really, hello, that's your wakey, wakey red flag sign. He lost his wife to Alzheimer's, and he was he was an amazing man, amazing writer, author, but also he was a cartoonist. He was one of the first parachute jumpers in World War II. Just an incredible man. And we saw him right before he passed, and his rest of his life was dedicated to Alzheimer's and Alzheimer's awareness and hoping to find a cure. And it's interesting how you brought this in for her and being such a young person, because I think Alzheimer's, we think that Alzheimer's is you're
when
at
you
the
get
end.
old.
Yeah, so don't worry about it, because you're dying now. You're done.
Right.
That's it. That kind of attitude, and that's not the truth at all.
Well, when I was young, I really I didn't pay any attention to old people, but I perhaps if I'd had different relationships growing up, I would have. But I think it's a human nature to feel like, well, it's something that people generally get when they're old, and you're going to die of something anyway. I mean, we're pretty hard-hearted about stuff like that. But the truth is that Alzheimer's is a disease, and not everybody gets it. And there are things you can do to help prevent yourself from getting it. And because people confuse dementia and Alzheimer's, which dementia is an umbrella term for the symptoms of confusion, memory loss, cognitive decline, but about 70% of the time it's caused by Alzheimer's. And the other big chunk of the time is caused by vascular dementia, which is really not distinguishable before death from Alzheimer's, and also not curable. And then there are a few other small conditions that cause those symptoms. But when a doctor thinks he's being kind and says your mother has dementia, you feel a lot better than if he says your mother has Alzheimer's disease, because Alzheimer's kind of strikes fear in people's hearts. But then if people don't know that it's present, they don't give money to the research, they don't volunteer for the studies. I mean, we can't, and I find that people either know everything about it and are scared to death of it, or they know nothing about it and they're convinced it'll never happen to them. But there's a lack of just good information out there. And I go back to fiction being a good way to draw people in to issues that they might not choose to read about if they weren't just reading a novel.
Exactly. exactly. I think, again, it goes to a place where you can take it in the way you want to, and it feels, you know, it's personal. Reading a book is private. It's personal. It's your own journey without anybody telling you anything other than you're in the story. So you will assimilate it. It's not like a teacher telling you what to do. It's not a boss telling you what to do. It's not your friends or family saying la 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 la, even though you go to them for the la 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 la. It's something that
Right.
assimilates into you. But the Alzheimer thing, I think, is really important because you say, senility, dementia, losing memory, it happens, but then it's just kind of like, oh, well, that's what happens at this age. And
Right.
I'm going, uh-oh, I better not have that extra glass of wine at night. I'm going there. It's going to happen. So I
But
think
it's not inevitable at all. I mean,
mhm.
there's a big segment of the population that it's a declining segment of the population as people age, but that they just don't get any of those symptoms. It's an illness that causes the symptoms. That's it. No such thing as senility. There are old people. I've seen old people in their 90s, tottering around on high heels and driving cars. Who are perfectly clear. Physically, they might not be so great, but mentally, they are still sharp as could be. And, of course, other people, it doesn't work out so well. My mother and my grandmother, among others in my family, had Alzheimer's. And so I got to see up close what it does. And,
It's a scary thing for everybody involved,
very.
including the person dealing with it, because, it's like, it's a really hard thing. I saw a friend of mine post on Facebook this morning about senility or, dementia, Alzheimer's, all connected, right? And the doctor, as a cartoon, the doctor's like, well, why do you keep visiting your mother? She doesn't know who you are. She goes, because I remember her. Or as a, wife or something. I remember them. And it's a very hard thing when someone doesn't remember you, but you still remember them. That connection is, and you wonder.
Oh, painful.
And how do you get into their skin to feel what they are? Are they scared all the time? We were talking about that about your grandfather, Nancy, the other day, about his, you were saying he died of fright.
Well, that's what the doctor said. He was put in, when my grandmother died, he was totally deaf, and he was like 90% blind, and nobody really stood up to take care of him. And my older aunt put him in a home, and a few days later, he decided to leave the home. He probably didn't even know where he was, and he didn't understand people handling him and putting him here because he couldn't really see or hear. So, I can't even imagine what was going on in his mind. And he left the home, and when people caught him, he just died. He just
Wow.
And the doctor said he died of fright, maybe probably heart attack or whatever, but he was just so confused because nobody could really communicate with him.
Right.
And he was with strangers, and nobody knew what to do with the poor fellow, and that was that. So they just said he died of fright. And I'm like, that always stuck in my mind. That's so not what you would expect on a professional basis. I'm sure there's medical terms for it, but that's what they said. He died of fright.
Yeah, that's a very sad story.
Yeah,
you should write about that.
Well, I don't really
Nancy,
know.
you should write. She has a lot to write about on those kind of things.
That's not all I know about it,
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so he's put in a home, and I don't know, man. Yeah.
And I know, that's what I think about. What's so scary for the patients? Like, how do you wake up in the morning and not know who you are? Do you know internally? Do you have some kind of? Does your soul know who? You know what I mean? I don't.
Yes.
Well, he may have known who he was, but if you can't see that well and you can't hear,
and you don't know why everything has changed,
suddenly everything's. So my grandmother's passed away, and people come in and transport you somewhere else. I know that he was strapped down to a bed for a while.
Oh,
Oh,
I
And
freaked out.
they don't
so
do that anymore.
well,
Oh,
they
good.
did
I
then,
don't think they do.
but I mean, how do you even communicate with somebody like that?
No,
It's just
I don't know.
Mm-mm.
But
anyway.
it's a terribly sad story.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. It's a when you look at these situations, and this is one of many people's stories, and I know you were a board member or are a board member on the advisory board at Boston University School of Medicine's Alzheimer's Disease Center. I know you work with them.
I
Um,
was,
you,
yeah.
you worked.
It doesn't exist anymore, but I was on it while
Oh,
it existed.
so you worked in this you got involved with this. Have you heard anything positive in regards to Alzheimer's, a cure or
A cure.
understanding it better?
Well, I think that the scientists understand what happens in the brain perfectly. They understand the course of the disease and how what is actually going on. But as for preventing it or curing it, there have been an awful lot of failures, and I mean, what you learn from a failure is just that is not an avenue to go down because that isn't working. But I think a month doesn't go by when you don't read in the paper that there's some other promising remedy being researched or in the first phase of clinical trials. So far, there is nothing but just a couple of drugs that can stabilize you for a bit, but don't that can stabilize the symptoms for a bit, but the trajectory of the disease doesn't change. They're not a curative really or a delayer. But the thing is, people know that they have to have a will. They know they have to make some plans for the future. I mean, it's not a terrible thing to think, well, not all my friends say, well, is the bedroom on the first floor? I mean, other things can happen to you that aren't orthopedic. I mean, if the worst thing you had to worry about in life was that you wouldn't be able to climb stairs, that would be great. Unfortunately, there are other things that are tough, and I mean, and my husband and I are both very lucky to be very healthy right now, but we know that we can't pretend that there won't be a time when living in our house might be impossible. I live in a somewhat rural area, and that we need to be thinking about what comes next.
Right.
I know when I had needed to find a place for my parents, and my brother lived out of town. I was the only one close by, and I was scrambling, trying to fit visits to facilities in between working and trying to find somebody that had openings. And I had two parents who were failing, one physically, one mentally. And how could I find a place where they could be together? And I mean, these are not things you want to do under the gun. It should just be part of your normal life planning before it becomes a scary possibility.
And but once you tackle it, it's better. It's easier if you tackle it. If you don't tackle it, this is why women plan. Because if you don't tackle it, it's always nagging you at the back of your brain, and then it becomes a fear item, becomes fear, and then fear transcends into outbreak of
panic.
Panic, and you don't do anything. You don't. Now you're living in the land of reactions, right? Instead of go ahead, Nancy. She's a mother.
Well, no, I just say we live twice as long. I mean, when I was a kid, I just devoured like historic novels. That was my thing to read those, and everybody died at 48. And they had gray hair by the time they were 30, even without Clairol. And no, it's true. Everybody got older so much faster. Now here we are. We're bigger in body size. We live longer, almost twice as long. And it's like, how do you plan for when you're not going to be able to do the things you did when you were younger.
Yes.
It just doesn't occur to you to, oh, well, I know by this age I'm not going to have brown hair anymore. I'm going to have gray hair. And I know by this age my eyesight might fail. We don't think that way.
Right. Although I
We
did
just
tell
don't.
my husband that if he doesn't want me to color my hair, the only thing that goes with gray hair is diamonds. But he was unsympathetic.
Hey, listen, I love gray hair. Personally, I can't wait for it, you know. And I remember when I was in school, I was jealous of all of my friends and people in class that had glasses because I always thought like those are cool. That makes you look super smart, you know. Talk about a geek,
Uh,
you know. You know, and I always wanted glasses, and then you could make fire with them, you know. So you could use it as a magnifying glass. I was a
Oh
tomboy,
my God.
but and now it's like Nancy's like you need to go get your eyes checked. It's
Yeah.
happening, and it's like I mean, here we are. We travel the country full time, right? She does the long distance. I do the short distance when you're driving and looking at signs. So what does that tell you? Like I know it's happening. I have to go in
Yeah.
and do it. And I'm like, okay, when that starts to happen, the gray hairs are coming. You know, it's going to get to the point where you don't have to shave your legs anymore, though. You know, so that's good. So there's some trade-offs on things. You know, and
yes.
I look
And
forward to menopause. You know, I
oh my
and I
God.
hope to heck it isn't like waking up and going, oh, I'm pregnant. No, I don't want that. But
I, I
I'm
once
not being
asked
mean.
a doctor friend of mine when we were going through menopause and many of the associated unpleasant symptoms.
Mm.
I said to her, what, from an evolutionary perspective, what conceivable benefit could there be to make women go through this at approximately 50 years of age? And she looked at me, talk about historical novels. She said, we're supposed to be dead already.
Exactly. We're not. Our usefulness is done.
That's what it used to be.
Yeah,
That was her
we
point.
used to be
is.
just a vessel that took it in and spit it out and kept going, die, move on, cook, clean, do.
Because nature
Right.
doesn't care about wealth or personality.
No.
No. We've
Nature cares
outlived
about.
our duty cycle. I mean, if
Yeah.
we were printers, we would have been thrown out
Yeah.
or taken
So,
back to Staples.
yeah. So I mean,
I don't like the word
seriously.
staples in this conversation right now. That's scary.
Well, I mean, okay. I will say this: humans just go get a different model, trade them in for a new model.
Well,
yes.
yes.
Cars.
I suspect
Botox.
that's a different program you'd have to go into.
Yeah, now people walk around with these big lips and big butts. I mean,
No,
come on.
stop it.
What we've traded. I don't know. It's like we've been given these extra years, so we can do these things, right? Like you're saying, you went
Well, I
back
hope
to
we
school.
don't waste them.
Well,
getting
no, but
bigger
I
butts.
want to say this, Joan. I think it's really commendable. No, I really appreciate this because, and I want to give a shout out to JK's Communications. We work with them real close for over like 11 years or something crazy. They've sent us around the country to find literary stories, and we found so many. I can't wait for them to see what we found. James Michener, the author of The Awakening. I mean, all these places we've been, and we're finding all these women authors too. But going back to school to write a book, because so many authors write. Our friend Eva Eldridge, where we are here in Colorado, she goes to every conference. I mean, she's like, if I'm going to write, I'm going to the conferences. I'm going to learn every aspect of this industry. I'm going to learn the marketing. I'm going to learn the art of a book cover. I'm going to learn how to write. I'm going to learn the whole thing. And some people just write a book and go, like, whatever. I want to write a book. I'm an author now, and it doesn't work. But like you go, hey, if I'm going to write a book, I'm going back to school to get a degree for this stuff. So, it's interesting because you did study English, in English literature when as a young lady, and now you think about this. You are serious about that, and I think it's really commendable and an important piece in anything we do. Do it. Don't do it half-half. Sorry, but that's what I mean.
Yes.
You do it 100%.
Yes.
I can find better words.
I agree with you completely. That's why I wrote about a character who was risk averse, and in the beginning of my book, in the page where I have a quotation, which is from Goethe. It's, if I can quote my own quotation correctly, the dangers in life are infinite, and among them is safety. Which I think is the point you were making.
Exactly. I love that. Well, thank you so much for. We could talk to you for hours. I wish we were sitting down with you because it'd be so cool to meet you in person. You're awesome, and thank you for joining us. And I do have a crazy question that I do have to ask. You have a golden retriever in your book.
Yeah.
Cool. And I know you're a dog lover. I've done my research. And I've read this part, goes out in everyone's press kit and everything, that you say that all dog owners should buy the best vacuum cleaner they can afford. And I had to reread it because my mind filled in the word best dog food because we've lost a lot of animals to cancer too, cats and everything from learning what the food and the water and what it does. But you say vacuum cleaner. And I have to ask this because I know we have a lot of animal lovers and dog and cat and pet owners on the show. So I want to know what's the is it just for the hair or is it that cancer lingers in the carpet or something?
No. I mean, I can't tell you the reason why dogs get so much cancer, but I mean, I think they're like people in some respects. But I have, I'll do a plug here for Mealy Vacuum Cleaner Company. I like my vacuum very much, but when I was young, I didn't have an expensive vacuum cleaner because I couldn't afford one. So it's just like climbing the corporate ladder is climbing the vacuum cleaner ladder.
Well, and this is the thing. So this goes all hand in hand. I'm going to close with this. So you've got, the corporate woman out there with the baby spitting up on her. You have to have the dog because the dog is the only thing that's really going to listen to you and be there and present, right? It's like it's just as important like how books are, right? We were saying a book is your own personal journey, and so are dogs. Dogs, cats, your fur babies or your scaly babies. Or your feathered babies are all part of that like connection, and sometimes I'm glad we don't speak the same language, but I know we understand each other for some reason. I believe that, but you go out to work and you've got your fancy suit on. You're going to do this high-powered sale, and you turn around and you got a bunch of fur on your butt because you sat down with the dog or the cat decided this is my chair and this is what you love about them, but you're like that's that balance, right? And I think that's what keeps us real as women.
I think you're right. Mm-hmm. My husband had a navy blue suit, and he used to put his pants on in the garage because he couldn't put them on in the house before he left.
I know, right? It's like
that's the corollary to your story.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's it. You go to pack to go on a business trip. You bring the suitcase out. The cat gets in on top of your clothes. You're like,
I know. No. Exactly.
That's it. That's how it is.
Like, thank you for my new bed.
I know. Thank you so much. So excited that your book is out, everyone. Land of Last Chances. I love the title, too. That's an awesome title.
Thank you so much. I have enjoyed talking with you, too.
You too.
You are
I
both
hope
delightful.
You write more. You went and got a degree.
I promise.
Now. Okay, good, because I'm like, you can't get a degree and just do one. You need more. So
right, I agree. I'm working on it.
Cool. Good.
Awesome.
You keep us posted, please do. Everyone, Land of Last Chances by Joan Cohen. Of course, Amazon, all those great places. But go to her website, JoanCohenAuthor.com. She's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all those places too. And take care, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.